Namaskar and welcome to special series of webinars by Hindu Council of Australia. This initiative is created by Hindu Council of Australia's Victoria chapter. Today, in this first webinar, we will be talking about significance of Hindu religious practices and COVID-19 pandemic. In this pandemic time, we have seen a significant number of people have adhered to these practices. Even the modern governments have told us how these practices are important. I have a very esteemed panel today with me who will be talking about it, explaining us importance and how to adhere by them. First, I would like to introduce Shri Makarand Bhagwat ji. He is Director of Hindu Council of Australia. Makarand ji, welcome to the program. Namaskar.
Namaskar.
I must tell you that Makarand ji leads the Victoria chapter of Hindu Council of Australia, and they have done explanatory work. If you talk about how to deal with pandemic COVID-19, they have been supporting the community, not only the Indian Hindu community, but other communities across the board. Nepalese community has been working with them. They are making a lot of food packets and other support, maybe in rent or other ways. Makarand ji, thank you so much for joining us. And the second guest with us is Swami Sunishthananda ji from Vedanta Center of Melbourne. Swamiji, namaskar and welcome to the program. Swamiji is on mute. Yeah. Namaskar, Swamiji. If I want to tell you about Swamiji, probably it will take a whole 1 hour of the webinar. He is the living monk in charge of the center. He has worked in India, Fiji, and Australia. Comes with a background of Ramakrishna Mission and Ramakrishna Matha. When we see Santa like Swamiji, it's giving me shivers. These people are the pillars of our religious system, which keeps going on, which keeps that fire burning within us and our community. Swamiji, thank you so much for joining us. Our third guest is Bhakta Dasa ji. Bhakta Dasa ji. Namaskar, Bhakta ji.
Namaskar. Pranam, Swamiji, and Hare Krishna to all.
Namaskar.
Let me give a little brief about Bhakta ji. In technical terms, if you want to know what he does, he's the communication director, Australasia for ISKCON. For me, a communication professional myself, that place is one of the highest where you want to reach if you are a communication professional. Director of communication is at the pinnacle of it. But besides that, keep it apart. Think of Bhakta as a person who has 40 years of experience and 40 years of that love towards the Vedanta, towards the Pantha. If I give a Western version of it, Vaishnava Hindu tradition through International Society of ISKCON Consciousness. That is ISKCON. And in India, he's also chairman of Faith Communities Council. So, what does that mean? He not only works for Hindu communities and other Hindu faith people or councils, he also works in adherence with other faith people to make them understand where Hindus and especially ISKCON comes from, what are their beliefs, and how they can work collectively in this diverse multicultural Australia. Bhakta ji, thank you so much for joining us.
Sorry.
I'm not sure some echo is coming to me somehow. Yeah, now it's better. Let's start it with that kind of esteemed guests. Let me put this question across. Maybe let's start with Bhakta ji. Sir, Please tell me, as our topic says, significance of Hindu religious practices in the time of COVID-19. What is it? Let me be that raw layman from the street who doesn't understand these practices. Maybe I might be performing them, but please define it for us.
Great. I'd like to start, if I can, on this occasion, to quote an auspicious Vedic verse. It's Oma Pavitra Pavitrava Savadastam Gatopiva Yasmare Pundavikaksham Sabhyabhyantara Suchi. So in the relationship to cleanliness, because I wanted to start talking about cleanliness within the Vedic tradition, the translation of that verse is both pure and impure, passing through the conditions of material life. If one remembers the lotus-eyed Lord, then one becomes externally and internally clean. So, Jai, do you want me to give my presentation now?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay. So my presentation basically comes from the Gaudiya Vaishnava perspective of Vedic culture, and as I'm a Hare Krishna devotee, cleanliness is a very important aspect of all human life, irrespective of whether there is a virus or a pandemic or not. But if there is a viral pandemic, like we're going through at the moment, right throughout the world, if one follows a Vedic regime of cleanliness, one is much less likely to get the virus or be deeply affected by it. So cleanliness is not only creates an environment that's conducive to development of good consciousness, but it is an important part of also developing spiritual consciousness. And Swamiji, who is also an esteemed practitioner of spiritual life, he understands this as well. So a clean person, a clean-bodied person results in a clean home, a clean society, a clean nation, a cleaner world. And imagine if we took it all seriously, what an effort that would be to be clean like that. From a Vedic understanding, cleanliness involves both internal and external cleanliness. And these are different aspects that I wanted to bring about in our talk today. From a Vedic understanding, cleanliness involves both internal and external aspects. The following are the standards of Vedic cleanliness, which we can all aspire to on a day-to-day, moment-by-moment basis. First of all, let's start off with internal cleanliness. Adopting a spiritual life. We are humans with an intellect and free will, and we are different from animals. We have the opportunity to actually live a spiritual life, which is what we're actually meant to do. We can practice these points that I'm making any time of the day. First, having a belief in God, having a spiritual understanding that we're not these material bodies, but we're a spiritual entity. And then having the opportunity to chant the holy names of God by also offering prayers to the Supreme, by doing pranayama, cleansing our body through the prana, through breathing, meditating, stilling our mind, reading the scriptures, following the regulations, the regular principles, respecting authorities, respecting our gurus in the traditions that we come from, and engaging in austerity and service to mankind. Having that sort of an attitude, all these form an internal cleansing and help us manage an agitated mind. Such practices, those spiritual practices, clear the mind of impurities that have accumulated over many, many lifetimes and help us discriminate between good and bad. A person in such a clean mind is able to remain stable, have a good relationship with everybody that he comes in contact with not only those around them, but also establish a clean and open relationship with the Supreme. Now, external cleanliness, this is another really interesting thing because it all culminates together. From the very start, when we wake up in the morning, rising early is an important part to cleanliness because that is the most clean time. there is the less effect of material energy. And this time at around about 5 o'clock, a little bit before sunrise, is called Brahma Muhurta hour. If one practices spirituality at that time, that's the greatest time to do it. During this time, the general atmosphere is a mode of goodness, and the mind is less agitated. So after waking, we offer prayers to the spiritual master. The bed is made neatly, and then we go into the bathroom to wash. And it's a good practice to drink a little bit of warm water before at that time, which will assist us in cleansing the body by evacuating the meal from the day before. Some can do some quick exercises to get the blood moving and get woken up. After passing stool, we can cleanse that area and prepare for a shower. Prior to the shower, we brush our teeth and shave, do all those kind of things. And we spend a little time then cleaning where we've evacuated, cleaning like cleaning the toilet bowl, the wash basin, the entire bathroom, to make it pleasant for the next person that's coming. This creates a pleasant odor for the next person. So next comes showering, cleaning ourselves well with soap. And the best ones to use, obviously, if one can get Vedic soap, Ayurvedic soap, they're the best to get. Organic soaps are recommended. And our shower shouldn't be too hot. It's actually, when we have a very hot shower, it is a breeding ground for bacteria, and it is against our immune system. So having a tepid shower and finishing with a cold shower is the best for our body. The next comes when we've had that shower, we put on nice clean clothes, we decorate our body, and also I just mentioned before we go into a shower, we can usually massage our body with an aromatic oil or an oil that will heal, and they will rejuvenate the body. So a devotee decorates their body with gopi chandan, tilak, like I've got on my forehead. They mark in various places on the body, denoting that this body is a temple of God. And the work that I do in that day is solely for the service of God. So then we prepare our body for the service to the Lord. If we're a working person, we may not be able to put the gopi chandan on our head, so we do it with water, and that is fine. What it reminds us of is that our body is a temple for God, and that we have to utilize this body in the service to God. Knowing that and having these markings on our body, meditating on the fact that we are not these bodies and this body is simply the property of God and a temple of God, we feel spiritually potent for the day. During the winter season, it's fine to wear woolen cloth. Woolen and silk are pure products. And so again, keeping pure cloth, cotton, avoiding as much as possible synthetic products is the best for our body. Those that live close to a temple will come to a temple. If you haven't got that opportunity, then a person can conduct a puja ceremony at their home and offer some incense. Now again, this offering of incense is again a purifying and cleansing part of our life. But you have to have proper incense, frankincense, myrrh, sandalwood, incense that's made with pure cow dung. Again, it purifies the house, both physically and also subtly. It eradicates any negative elements within the house. It's interesting about incense, actually. I did some study on this. Incense is a substance that burned to produce a fragrant sense. It actually derives from the Latin word to burn. Incense has been used since ancient times in India, especially Egypt, Babylon, Greece, and it's a component of various religious practices. Even now we're coming to Christmas, and anybody that knows the story of the birth of Lord Jesus Christ, there was the men from the East came and bore incense, myrrh, frankincense to offer to Jesus, understanding he was a spiritual personality, as a cleansing, as an offering. Incense also counteracts bad and disagreeable odors. It's a way to also repel demons and evil spirits. Now, similarly, it is also said by burning gopi chandan, cow dung, in an incense form, it actually purifies the air of any viruses that may be in the room. So these are incredible things when you start studying it. It's all based on Vedic understanding. The next thing that I wanted to mention is now cleanliness comes into the area of cooking, just every aspect in our day. Whether it be breakfast, lunch, dinner, or snacks, the kitchen must always be clean. Cleanliness is next to godliness. So we have to have everything organized and clean. And then we feed our body with nutritious vegetables, milk-based ingredients, recommended by the Vedas, cleansing the body. And when the body is offered, when we have our preparation there, we offer it to the Supreme Lord, and then that food becomes purified by the glance of the Lord. And that food becomes prasadam. Prasadam means mercy of God. When we take that prasadam, it's actually purifying both internally, spiritually, we become nourished, and externally, because it's healthy. And it's, as Krishna advises in the Bhagwat Gita, the foodstuffs that you offer to me, patram putram salam salam, is foodstuffs that are offered in the mode of goodness, and they should be succulent, sweet, tasty. That kind of thing is what we're after. So the devotees take care not to mix their eating utensils for the Lord. They refrigerate and regularly clean the refrigeration. Food items are not kept directly on the floor or in bags. Same goes for utensils. And after cooking, the stovetop is cleaned thoroughly. Don't leave things hanging around. The kitchen needs to be left clean for the next person. The last thing we want to do is start cooking in a dirty place. The next thing is keeping your home clean. Some, if at home, a tidy home before the morning bath routine, while others are doing midday morning. Either way, the house is ideally swept and cleaned and mopped every day. Making clean water with fragrant items like eucalyptus oil is a great way to have a feeling of cleanliness, freshness that lingers all through the day. The next time is, then we go off to our business, the busy work. Devotion and cleanliness can also extend to the workplace. The desk at which we're working should be clean, and we should keep it very, very neat. We shouldn't eat at that desk where we're working. Rinse our lunchbox right after we've honored prasadam, if we're taking our lunch to work. Have a small altar with their lordships or a spiritual mentor on the desk. Is a convenient way to have a small temple right where you're working to keep your consciousness clean. Keeping the mind focused on work and not indulging in gossip during free time is the best. Whenever we have eaten our consumed beverages, rinse our mouth and hands. If there is a shower in the office, in the office area, we should shower after evacuating. And if not, well, we just do the best we can. And if we can wash with water so it's good, and freshen up. Now we come back home. So we go to the temple after work if we can. And if our home is a temple, then we offer our obeisances to our home deities and our home altar. We put on fresh, comfortable clothes, have a light meal. It's best not to eat too heavy a meal at nighttime. And it's best to go to bed at around about 9 o'clock if we're wanting to rise early and get the benefit of that early morning time, that Brahma Muhurta time. It's try and avoid as much as possible in the evening before going to bed to do heavy computer-related work or watching some heavy Netflix or TV movie, because that will only really depress you. Better to read a nice scriptural book and have a conversation with loved ones. Before getting to bed, brush your teeth, floss your teeth is essential. Once the bathroom is done, we may return to the altar to pray to the Lord and give thanks for the opportunity you've had in serving him that day, and ask for forgiveness for any mistakes that you may have made in that day. Once in bed, again, we offer our respects to the Lord and the spiritual master, and then we sleep, sweet sleep. This is the Vedic cleanliness in a nutshell, and the significance of the Hindu practices are so beneficial. There's a lot more that can be done, but this is a good template to begin with. As deeply inculcated strong values of cleanliness, we take them very, very seriously. We notice ourselves when we do this practice, we notice ourselves becoming more confident, satisfied, and even able to practice life, spiritual life, better. And we've found that by following these practices of Vedic cleanliness, we have less susceptibility to viruses, flus, colds, etc. And that's where I'll stop. Thank you very much. I hope that makes sense.
Wow. Let me tell you, Bhakta, that only probably 40% things I knew. And I consider, I consider myself very known to things, but most of the days I like to shower in very hot water, and now I will not.
Try and avoid it. If you can, try and avoid it.
And thank you so much for enlightening us. Probably people will adhere to what you have said and get the benefits out of it. And let me also correct myself on one more thing. I was supposed to I request Makarand to give a little brief of Hindu Council of Australia, first of all.
Yeah.
But in my haste of getting to the actual thing, I missed that. However, let's request Makarand to give us a brief of what Hindu Council of Australia does and how it is trying to connect and bring together a Hindu community in Australia. And I'm very much interested in the work they have done in last 1 year while this pandemic was just trying to destroy lives and businesses and everyone. Makarand, please come to the stage.
Thank you, Jitarth. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So, should we just maintain the flow or should we go for the
go ahead.
Okay. So, Bhakta, thank you very much for those kind words and very enlightening insight into the Vedic tradition of maintaining cleanliness. But I will go through the introduction, which I was supposed to do earlier before we started, but that is fine. So once again, namaste everyone, and thank you everyone for being here today. I welcome you on behalf of the Hindu Council of Australia, the Victoria chapter. This is our first of the series of webinars we are planning to organize. So thank you for joining and thank you for watching live on our media platforms. I also thank our very enthusiastic and techno-savvy and resourceful moderator, Shri Jitarth Bharadwaj, for his digital support to organize this event. So what is this HCA or Hindu Council of Australia? We call it HCA. So it is an organization which is at a national level. It's a national organization and it represents the Hindu faith in this country and has presence in each state and territory. It actually started about 22 years ago, started with New South Wales, and then it spread across Australia. So what do we do? What's our mission? So our mission is to preserve and promote and of course share the Hindu religious values and culture in Australia. We also try and unite Hindu faith, cultural organizations and groups in Australia. We represent Hindu community in its dealings with Australian federal, state and local government bodies. We also would like to expand and strengthen links between Hindu organizations throughout Australia by creating effective communication and collaborative networking. The most important thing which we do is the advocacy. So we are an advocate for the religious, cultural, social, and educational needs of Hindus in Australia, especially the second generation or third generation of Hindu migrants in this country. We also celebrate religious and cultural festivals. We organize exhibitions and programs. We also have presence in education and support Hindu youth in all respects of their growth and empowerment. We also promote harmony and understanding between Hindu and other faiths in Australia through interfaith dialogue. And we provide information for understanding of Hindu traditions, culture, philosophy, and theology in Australia. So In Victoria, HCA is a permanent member of the Multi-Faith Advisory Group, which is attached to the Department of Premier and Cabinet, and it provides advice to the Victorian government on faith-related matters. And there are many of them, including the COVID-19, which we are going through. There were several issues related to places of worship, where we participated in several meetings with the government authorities, DHHS, and everything. HCA is also a member of a peak interfaith body in Victoria, which is called as Faith Community Council of Victoria. And I'm very proud to say that the current president of FCCV belongs to the Hindu faith and is very much between us today. And he is none other than Sri Bhakta Dasa ji, one of our keynote speakers today in this webinar. HCA is also associated closely with the Spiritual Health Association for the last 5 years or so. And we have a team of about 25 accredited volunteer spiritual care providers. And they work in the hospital and aged care system to provide spiritual care to the Hindu patients. In Victoria, we organized a spoken Sanskrit class in 2 sessions last year, and it was conducted by a visiting Sanskrit scholar from India. And she is a Doordarshan newsreader as well. Her name is Ms. Jyoti Raj. Earlier in this year, Hindu Council also in Melbourne conducted a short course on Hinduism, a 2-day course, which covered several interesting topics, such as the general framework of Hinduism, the Bhagwat Gita and the Upanishad, just an overview on how it is structured. It also talked about 6 schools of Indian philosophy. And then it had a very interesting segment on comparative religion with Hinduism, on what is in other religions and what is in our religion, what are the comparative elements. Here in Victoria, HCA works closely with all the Hindu temples and spiritual organizations in metropolitan Melbourne, and we will be soon expanding to regional Victoria. During the recent COVID-19 crisis, HCA's team of volunteers worked over several weeks in providing grocery kits to over 1,300 or 1,500 overseas students who were suffering due to the lockdown situation, where they could not go outside and buy. They lost their jobs. And so we provided them grocery kits. We worked with a lot of partner organizations in Metro Melbourne, and within the government guidelines of 5-kilometer rule, which we had for a number of weeks, which was later relaxed to 25 kilometers, we managed it very well. So I would like to thank all those volunteers who supported in this Herculean task. We do have a core team of 8 dedicated volunteers. We work very closely here in Victoria. We meet quite often on Zoom, and we discuss the matters related to the work which we are doing. And we also work with a large number of partner organizations. So today's webinar, as we have just said, is based on this unique subject of significance of Hindu religious practices on the backdrop of this COVID-19 pandemic, with our 2 eminent speakers, which Jitarth Ji has already introduced to you. And with this introduction, I think I will now hand over to Jitarth Ji to continue our segment on this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Makarand ji. Thank you so much for telling us how Hindu Council of Australia is working for the welfare, for looking after not only Indian Australians, but the international students who are guests to this country, and they make opinion. They are probably the cheerleaders in whole of the world, how we Australians reflect ourselves as a society. Thank you so much for doing everything like that. Let me go back now again to the main topic of Hindu religious practices. Swami Sunishthananda ji is the practice he brings to this. He told me a word called shocha. So let me go to him and request to explain and expand this word shocha in the yogic form or Hindu effect. In the day-to-day way. We understand the spiritual way, how this yogic way is also guiding us to have that shocha, if we can say. Swamiji, please enlighten us.
Thank you, Jitarth. So this coronavirus pandemic, it has already proven to be an unprecedented crisis in the human history that has impacted our well-being as well as our mental health at the individual, group, and as well as in the societal level. When the entire world is struggling to effectively manage this crisis, it's time to recognize the perennial values of the wisdom embedded in the yoga and the Vedanta philosophy and adopt them as a way of life. The first two disciplines of the eightfold practices of yoga are the 5 yamas or restraints and the 5 niyamas. So before entering into the shaucha, one of the yamas I would like to stress because it's a very, very important practice. There's an implication of ahimsa in the present situation. Even in the scientific world, now this ahimsa has become a very important factor if we really want to survive as a human race. It is the humanity's destruction of biodiversity that create conditions for the new viruses and diseases. We cut trees, we kill animals, and we shake viruses loose from their natural hosts. And then what happens? They need a new host. And often we are it. And it has become a big question now that at last, is it we who are going to kill ourselves in the name of himsa? We are just destroying the biodiversity, and at last the virus has become our predator. They shake off from the other biodiverse animals, plants, and as they are killed, we are destroying the biodiversity. They mutate and are affecting the humans, which in near future may be a big challenge for the human race to continue to survive. So that's a very important practice, that ahimsa, which we stress so much. There's a first and foremost practice. Based on that practice, all other practice comes into picture. Now that, as you have stressed, the practice of shaucha. Yes, of the niyamas, the 5 niyamas, the first 2 practices are shaucha and the santosha. So these 2 practices have significant role to play in the present situation. As our Bhakta Dasji has already indicated very elaborately the importance of shaucha in the present situation. Just to give shaucha has 2. It has 2 levels. One in the physical level, and other is our mental and the spiritual level. The physical level is also very important. Washing hands thoroughly before taking food. Leave shoes outside before entering the house. These are the practices which we are doing for ages. Take shower regularly, especially after returning home from work. Changing clothes after returning from work. Not sharing the same plate with others while taking food. Not touching the spoon meant for serving to the plates in which we have our food. And it's very unique practice in India. When we drink water, generally we don't touch the tumbler with our mouth. So the less the contact, the less the chance of spreading of the disease, of any virus, of any pandemic. The next practice, along with shaucha, is santosha, contentment. It's the second niyama, and it has a significant role to play in the present moment of crisis. Santosha or contentment can be practiced by dwelling less on stress and reflecting more on the positives. The best way to practice contentment is to take control of the present situation instead of worrying about the unpredictable future. We constantly go on worrying about the unpredictable future. And worrying is most of the time like a rocking chair. You do something, you go nowhere. That's what they say. That health doesn't help. Better to take care of the present situation. In the present moment of COVID-19 pandemic, it means the willingness to practice proper hygiene and social distancing rather than constantly worrying. Am I going to get infected? Am I going to get sick? This constant worry is like the rust which is killing us from within. Take care of the present moment, what I have to do. The rest will automatically take care of itself. And there are other aspects of the shaucha. There's a concept of ahara shuddhi. So in that, I will try to cover the concept of the other aspects of the shaucha. In Chandogya Upanishad, there's a wonderful concept of ahara shuddhi, the purity of food, which has a very significant implication in the present context of the COVID-19. So, to explain ahara shuddhi, Sri Ramanujacharya, one of the acharyas, the propounder of the Vishishtadvaita, he refers to 3 types of doshas or contaminations that makes food impure. They're the jati dosha, which refers to the junk foods and all the contaminants that will be the food which we eat. That's the jati dosha. By class itself, certain foods are to be avoided. The next is the asraya dosha, which refers to the contamination because of contact with other people. And the third is the nimitta dosha, which refers to the contamination because of microbes and viruses. Now, to avoid jati dosha, we have to eat a well-balanced diet, which tend to make us healthier with stronger immune systems. So we should eat a variety of fresh and unprocessed plant-based foods every day to get the necessary vitamins, minerals, dietary fiber, protein, and antioxidants our body needs. We have to drink enough water. We should avoid sugar, fat, and salt. And thus, by boosting our immune system, the risk of getting affected by COVID-19 gets considerably lessened. To avoid asraya dosha, the next dosha, that sometimes the food gets contaminated by being associating with other people. In the present situation, it's very significant. We should avoid eating outside as much as possible and eat at home to reduce our rate of contact with other people and lower our chance of being exposed to COVID-19. By avoiding eating outside, we can also avoid the nimitta dosha. The droplets from infected people may land on surface and people's hands. With lots of people coming and going, we cannot tell if the hands are being washed regularly enough and the surfaces are being cleaned regularly. Whether we are using the disinfectants, we don't know. So thereby leaving us exposed to the vulnerable COVID-19. So this asraya, this ahara shuddhi, as per the 3 doshas are concerned, has a great role to play in the present COVID situation. But this ahara shuddhi has some other implications too. But as it has to do with the psychological aspect, and now as our Jitarth Ji have asked me to keep the discussion fixed in some shaucha. So for the time being, I will just restrict myself to this shaucha aspect only. And if time permits, I will again try to throw some light on the psychological aspect of this ahara shuddhi. So thank you, Jitarth Ji, for giving me the chance to just share my views on this point of cleanliness, which is very important, which has been stressed in our scripture. And as I was mentioning, the ahimsa is a very important thing. That's the cause. That has become the cause. Because the virus which are being shared by the entire biodiversity, at present, as we are streamlining, a killing of the animals and trees, it has become a very, very factor of crisis. Those virus needs a new host, and they're very easily mutate, and they are attacking the humans. And we are in the big question whether we survive or not. With this, we don't know how to get rid of the virus. So this ahimsa has become a very, very important question now. That we all have to agree that the biodiversity has to be maintained, and ahimsa is the only way of life that can help us to survive. So with this word, I would like to conclude. for the time being.
Thank you, Swami Sunishthananda ji. The aspects of shocha, they are so multitude, and they are so, maybe we think that they are so difficult to follow, but this pandemic has definitely told us that what you just told us is not that difficult to follow, and it keeps us so safe and probably builds on us. I'll take this opportunity while it's really warm in our discussion. I'll come back to you on your psychological aspects for this, but I'll go to one of our guests. A few people want to ask questions, so we have Uma Vijay. She's joining us. I'll request her to come over and then ask a question regarding to this. Umaji is with us now. Umaji, namaskar. Please put your question forward. Umaji, you are on mute somehow. No, now I can see you are on mute. Umaji, please unmute yourself. Ji. We actually can't hear Umaji. I'll put a question across. We'll go. Umaji, you have muted yourself. Can you please unmute yourself from the bottom? Yes. You are on mute, Umaji. Click it and it will be, yes. Now please speak.
No, I think her microphone is not plugged.
Somehow we can't hear Umaji. We'll come back to Umaji again. Let's put Dhananjay ji. He's also there. Dhananjay ji is here. Dhananjay ji, can you ask the question?
Yeah. Can you hear me, please?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can.
First of all, thank you, Bhakta Dasa ji, for probably reinforcing the same thing, because what happened when it is a routine, we don't appreciate the things. And when you see that, okay, I am escaped from all this pandemic because of my routine, and my routine comes from some roots which I have been grown with, and I was told you have to follow this, and these are the reasons, and we do that, but we don't appreciate that. And thank you very much for reinforcing that, like this is what the routine you should follow, and that is how you maintain the cleanliness. But my question is to Swamiji, and what happens, Swamiji, like all you gurus work as a doctor, and you work as a doctor not to cure the disease. You tell us all the time the preventive measures. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. We don't listen to you and we get into trap, and then you come back and cure us again. So, and like at the end of every sort of religious function, there is always a prasad. So I'm asking you, the prasad is, when I'm going away from here, for this pandemic, what happened? Like endurance is gone, people lost the hope all over, there is a negativity, people have made the mistakes, they have suffered, they learned the lesson, I hope. But now coming out of this in New Year's, probably what you will probably give me the prasad so that I can build my inner strength to fight with this negativity, where what practice I should do. And as you know, when I collect the prasad from my temple and go home, on the way I'll give that prasad to whomsoever I see. So give me that prasad so that I can distribute to others, that what I should do to fight with this negativity internally, a practice of 10 minutes or half an hour or something, what you said psychologically.
Yeah. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, the only way you can avoid the West, you have to go towards East. The more you go towards East, the West automatically falls behind. You cannot push the West. The only way you can go away from the West, go towards East. As all of our traditions will agree to that the Ahara Shuddhi, which I was speaking of, that I will elaborate again, because in the question answer session, I think it's just a few minutes, but still I will just stress, Ahara, it doesn't mean only food. It also means what we are gathering in through our senses, through our mind. So if we are constantly getting ourselves distracted through the news, through the media, we are going to be distressed. With the same mind, we can contemplate on the divine, on God. And that's the only thing which can take us away from stress. The more we are in communion with the divine, the more we get the stress factor automatically falls out. When the question answer session is over, I will, if I get time, I will elaborate on this, and that's very much needed. First, we have to commune with the divine. Always keep that in mind, the awareness of the divine, and that actually will help us to solve all our problems in life. And not only that, we will become a productive member. Once I am free from stress, then only I can think of giving love to others. The prema comes only when I am out of stress. So that factor is very important. First, I should be out of stress, and then I relate to the world through love. And that is possible even in this moment of crisis. As a human being, we are having that unique faculty to do that. And that's the thing I would just say. The more we are attuned to the divine, that's the basic, that's the ultimate solution. There is no other solution. The more we are attuned to the divine, the other things falls off automatically. And that's the only way psychologically we can deal with this problem.
Yeah.
Very well said, Swamiji.
Dhanyavad. Thank you.
Can I answer a little bit there as well, if you don't mind?
Yes, please, Bhaktaji, please add on.
Dhananjay, you're asking perhaps, what can I do in a 10-minute segment? It has to be remembered, and Swamiji was making this quite clear, we're in an age called the Kali Yuga. And from the scriptures, we understand that these miseries will befall us in this age that we're living in. So in this age, it's recommended that the process for this understanding and keeping conscious of the Supreme is the calling out of his holy names, of God's holy names. When we chant the glories of the holy name, and God has many, many names. It's not restricted to one particular name. So we in the Hare Krishna movement know that as often as we can, if we can call on the holy names of God, that will actually help us, that will purify us, that will direct us, that will guide us. So that is the technique. For 10 minutes, if you find 10 minutes, half an hour, if you simply just call on the holy names of God, chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, that's a purifying effect, and that will help you, Dhananjaya.
Yeah, yes, definitely.
Swamiji, I must add to you and Bhaktaji's. My father, when I was a child, my father used to tell me, Hari se bada Hari ka naam. That means Hari's name is bigger than Hari. If you just take Hari's name,
It's true.
more things will be done. So thank you so much for saying this, Bhaktaji. We'll go to our next question. We have Umaji again. Let's request her to join again, and we'll request her to put the question across to us. Umaji, I can see you are still on mute. Can you unmute yourself?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Now say to all of you, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks for giving me the opportunity. I need to thank HCI for organizing this, first of all. And then this was a very interesting afternoon that we had, useful, interesting afternoon. Most of the things that Bhaktaji and Swamiji has said, the older generations, we have been used to that and we have been following it. And I come from a very orthodox family where all the things that Bhaktaji has said, it is like a military rule for us to follow it, whether we liked it or not. The next generation, of course, they are more free birds and they think we are all Hitlers. When we say, don't do this, don't touch it, don't do this, we become Hitlers. And now, coming from a South Indian background, even today, early morning, we put rangoli outside the house. And that we put it with rice flour. The reason for that, making a small rangoli with rice flour, is we have been told that insects like ants and all can come and eat that. Birds or ants can eat it. We used to wash our house outside and internally at least once a month with cow dung and gomium, which is the urine of the cow. Unfortunately, of late, we are finding it very difficult to get access to it. I do go up to Geelong to get some cow dung during summertime. I would appreciate if Bhakta Ji could organize it at ISKCON to make it available, some cow dung cakes, and also the gomium. And also, I think we need to make more such programs to create awareness with the next generation to understand the importance and the do's and don'ts, which will be really great, G. And I would be really appreciating if I could be part of it in future also.
Certainly, Uma.
And
Probably Bhaktaji and Makarandji both have to answer to Umaji for this.
Uma, I appreciate what you're saying. If I can just pip in, I appreciate what you're saying. The younger generation are different to the traditional sort of growth that we actually. I came from a Western tradition, but I accepted those regime. The thing that we have now, which is an advantage, is that these practices of Vedic tradition are now being verified by science. And people of today, young people especially, as Swamiji was mentioning, they're concerned about the environment. They're concerned about the suffering that animals go through to satisfy our taste buds. They're concerned about that. So vegetarianism is on the rise. Veganism is on the rise. And so scientifically they know it's much better for me to live in this harmonious relationship with animals. So no more killing. And a lot of young people are becoming like that. Similarly with quantum physics now, it's understanding that there is a creative power much greater than what we've ever thought. There's actually a decline in atheism. And so young people are searching, they're looking. We find this all the time. And the other thing is that not only are other things, like say, for example, cow dung. Cow dung is now scientifically being proven to be antiseptic, to be cleansing. And so thereby science is backing up what the Vedas have been saying for thousands and thousands of years. Young people don't take to just a theology or somebody told me to do it. They want proof. They want scientific proof. So the Vedic sciences are sciences. They are the truth. And it can be verified by material science now.
Yeah.
And that's the angle that you have to come in with young people.
Thank you. Makarandji, would you like to add?
Just can I add a little thing? Just one thing. I think it's not the problem with the young people. The main thing is that everyone has a language, and we have to speak to them in their language.
Correct.
That's the thing. If it's a challenge to us, not to the young people. Most probably we cannot relate to them the values because the language which they understand, most probably we cannot communicate to them in that language. But once we can communicate, I think they are also bound to appreciate those values. They're bound to appreciate.
Thank you, Swamiji. Makarandji, you want to add? We just got a minute.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it is definitely need of the time that we need to create these youngsters who can talk to those youngsters, their peers in their own language. I think that is the need which we need to brainstorm on, how to create those youngsters, help them understand these values, connect them with science, give them the evidences, and make them ambassadors so that they can later on go and talk to their generation people and spread the actual facts around rather than and actually help in avoiding the misinformation about all these things which we are talking about, which is there in the community. So we will take this up as a separate big exercise.
We have got Aradhana ji also there. Aradhana ji, please ask your question.
Thank you, Jitarth ji. It was a really excellent presentation. Thank you. I've got a two-part question. Firstly, these COVID times have been really difficult for people from a mental health point of view. So from a spiritual perspective, how can we fortify ourselves against some of the negative impact of lockdowns? Things like loneliness, depression, isolation, feeling disconnected. That's the first part. The second part is, for those who are already experiencing a lot of the mental health issues, such as depression, all the difficulties, what are some practical strategies that we can adopt to help them cope?
Who want to pick this, Swamiji or Bhaktaji? Who want to take a?
I'll leave it open for anyone who would like to. Swamiji, if you'd like to start, that would be great.
Okay. So there's the Ahara Shuddhi aspect, which I was speaking of. Let me just take it off from that point. Adi Shankaracharya also interpreted it on the same word, Ahara Shuddhi. And he emphasized that food for us is not only the stuffs that we eat, but anything which reaches through the sense organs is also our food, through our mind, through our sense organs. So to attend this Chitta Shuddhi, it is not only essential to have control over the food that we eat is of sattvic nature, but also the stuffs we see, we hear, we perceive through touch and smell, that also should be sattvic and pure nature. So that our mind will get enveloped with pure thoughts and make it easier to be aware of our spiritual dimension of existence, which in turn can liberate us. So this interpretation speaks of balancing our social media consumption. It is very important that our psychological well-being is directly related to that social media consumption. Social media might appear to be filled with bad news, but for many, it is also a key way to stay updated and connected with friends and loved ones. So keeping our phones out of our bedroom or self-imposing the screen-free time can help us to balance the negativity with the benefits social media brings. So now this interpretation of Adi Shankaracharya also speaks of attuning ourselves to the spiritual dimension. That as Bhakta Das ji was indicating, that the name, resorting to the name, contemplation, it's very important how it helps us. I will just try to explain in a very short way how it helps us. That in life we can never find answers to most of the problems unless we relate to another dimension of existence. I will just give you an example. Suppose that if in a classroom the teacher asks to draw exactly 4 triangles by joining 4 points. You may try, you can never do it. Impossible. Just draw 4 triangles by joining exactly 4 points. The answer is you have to spot 3 points in the paper and imagine the 4th point in the space. Now you join, you will get a just triangular pyramid with exactly 4 triangular surfaces. So why we were not finding the answer? Because we were trying to find the answer just in the paper of the plane. In the present life, with the materialistic paradigm, that's what's happening. We're trying to find answers only in the sensate pleasures, sensate plane of life. Unless we relate it to the divine, it's almost impossible to find the answers to our life. And that takes us to that depression. You know why? Whenever a problem is there, if you're just relating to the physical plane, it appears to be permanent, as if there is no solution. The moment you're relating to the divine plane, it becomes temporary. It's just a passing phase. You know very well where you are, you will be one with the divine. You'll always in communion with the divine. It's just a passing phase through which you are going. All the problems becomes local. They say it is goshpada. It is just like the hoof of a cow. Jumping over it is very easy. The ocean becomes just like the hoof of a cow. It becomes local once you relate to that dimension. And then what happens? once your perspective becomes great, then you can relate to the world through that prema, that positive emotions. That prema, in the modern psychology, the word prema is used as an acronym. It's very interesting. In the modern psychology, the word prema is used as an acronym to explain what that P stands for: positive emotions. Unless you have positive emotions, you can never think of good relationships. R for relationship. You can never think. And once the good relationships you are thinking of, if you are really having positive emotions, that enables you to engage in those relationships. It's not superficial. And you have a meaning behind it. There's a purpose behind it, that you serve the Lord through all the beings, because the entire existence is a manifestation of the divine. And you find the meaning, and that gives you an accomplishment that you find that it helps you as well as the world. So that's the thing which is very important, that once you relate to the divine plane, because even in the present life, just one thing you will indicate, that why we feel isolated, why we feel that loneliness. Even when you are in a social gathering, you can feel lonely if you are not engaged in relationship, if you are not really focused to some relationship or to some productive activity. It is not your physical association with others, it's your engagement. The moment you can engage with some relationship, like the relationship with the divine, no other presence is required. Even when you are alone, you can really have a very nice time by being engaged emotionally, devotionally with the presence of the divine. And once you can do that, there is no question of loneliness. The loneliness comes when we cannot relate. And once we can do that, then all our problems are solved. And that's the thing which we find is being highly highlighted in our philosophy, in our scriptures. So that's, I would just indicate, is the point.
Thank you, Swami, so much. Thank you, Aradhana ji, for your question. And
could I make one quick comment?
Yes, but 30 seconds for you.
Very, very quick. Makarand knows that we do chaplaincy work, and during this COVID-19, we've had to do chaplaincy work and helping people with depression on a very practical level. And I agree with what Swamiji is saying. On a practical level, we have to exude love.
Yeah,
it's a simple thing, love. When you're there for the person that's suffering depression, actually really be there for them. Really emphasize the love that you have for that person as a spiritual being. And as Swamiji is saying, when you're practice and you're fixed in your connection to God, the person that you're talking to and you're bringing forth love to them, they will feel that. So on a very practical level, when you have someone that is in a depressed state, by you following the regime, as I've mentioned and as Swamiji has mentioned, your connection to the divine, and you then exude that love, which is bhakti, you exude that love to that candidate that's suffering from depression, they will feel a connection with you. And that will mitigate that depression. It will mitigate it. And it's honestly true. Makarand and I know that by doing chaplaincy work, palliative care work, and it's all based on the person being that is giving the direction, that's giving the advice, to be fixed, as Swamiji is saying, be fixed in that devotional and connection to the Supreme, and then you're able to give that love to another person.
absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Swami. Makarand ji, we are already running over the time. I'll give you 30 seconds to give a note of thank you, please.
I'm so appreciative of what Swamiji has said, and I'm honored to be here. I'm not a very good candidate in this area. I appreciate my friendship with Makarand ji, and I appreciate my association with the Hindu Council of Australia. The Vedas have so much to offer in this time of need. The Vedas and Vedic knowledge is being verified by science. It is the epitome of all knowledge. That's why a person like myself, who came from a Western background, a lot of people ask me, when did you get converted to Hinduism? I never got converted to Hinduism. The Vedic sciences are there for everyone. And I simply upgraded, learned a little bit more. And this Vedic culture is the greatest solace to mankind. The more people like Swamiji, myself, Makarand, the Hindu Council of Australia can promote and work within society and ask people to become a little bit more spiritual, the greater our society will be. And what will happen, you will bring Satya Yuga into Kali Yuga. You will create heaven on earth, no doubt about it. And it will happen. It will
Very
happen.
well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bhakta Das-ji.
Very well said, Bhaktaji, Swamiji, and I'll take probably 15 seconds to say thank you. First of all, this was our first experiment to start this kind of a webinar. And looking at the recent events happening in Sydney, probably we are in it for a long haul until we are vaccinated, a second strain, third strain. So we need to continue to engage and use these digital platforms to spread this positivity around. The subject which we have chosen today is probably definitely aligning with the situation we all are going through. So Swamiji and Bhaktaji, thank you very much for your inputs. And thank you for asking those questions. And Jitarth, thank you very much for organizing this fantastic media platform. So Bhaktaji and Swamiji, you can please tell your networks, and we will also tell our network that this entire webinar is going to be available on Facebook for other people to look at and watch later on. I think we were not able to upload it on YouTube, but we will upload this on YouTube as well. So thank you very much, everybody, and namaskar.
Namaskar.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining with us. This is first of the series of the webinars Hindu Council of Australia will be conducting. For today, namaskar to everyone, and we'll be meeting again in a few weeks' time. Thank you so much.